Jacqueline, and I'm the Teen Services Librarian here at the Jessamine County Public Library. And today I thought we would do a craft together. And today's craft will be fairy lanterns. So the first thing we need to do is gather our supplies. You're going to need a jar. This is just a random pickle jar. Or you could use a mason jar. You're going to need a cutout of some kind. Unicorns or dragons or fairies, or you could draw your own. An X-Acto knife is helpful, or some really good scissors. You're going to need a battery operated tea light, some tissue paper. You just need tiny squares of tissue paper. You don't need much. Some Modge Podge, which I have in here, a flat paintbrush for the Modge Podge, and some cardboard. So I used really thick paper, but you could just use a cereal box if you don't have some paper. You need hot glue, or if you don't have hot glue, you could use a strong glue like Eco 600. And you can get various things to decorate your jar. So you could get some glittery stuff, jewels, some little tiny roses maybe, some stars. I found some feathers and arrows. And just whatever you want to decorate your jar with is fine. So to get started, we're going to need to get a template or a drawing, whichever you would like. And you could cut that out and trace it onto your cardboard. So once you get that traced, you're going to have your cardboard cut out. And you're going to glue it inside your jar. You can just take your Modge Podge. I'm just going to brush it on your cutout that you made. And once we get it all brushed on there, then you're going to kind of fold it in so it'll fit down in the jar. And then take it and put it down inside the jar. Then once you get it in the jar, you're going to press it to the glass so it glues on. You're probably going to have to hold it a few minutes to get it to stick. You could use a different type of glue if you wanted to. You could use like this clear glue, Eco 6000. But the Modge Podge will dry clear, so don't worry about it if it's white there. So once you get your figure inside, then you're going to get your tissue paper. And I would recommend cutting your tissue paper into really small strips, smaller than this actually. So I just cut mine into these small squares and then I cut it in half. Or if you have a long piece of paper, you could just cut it into strips. Whatever size you want. That would also depend on how much of a one color you want on each jar. So, like if you wanted this orange, maybe you only want a thin strip of orange. Or if you wanted to have a thick strip, you could put a thick strip on there. The best thing to do is start by turning your jar upside down. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to pick our colors. So I've cut all my paper into little thin strips. And I'm going to lay them across my jar. And then I'm going to apply the Modge Podge on my jar and stick my paper on it, my tissue paper. And don't worry if you get some of it on top of the tissue paper, it doesn't hurt, because like I said, it dries clear. And less is more. I found that you don't really want it to be thick. Otherwise, the light won't go through very well. So my first one I made, I think I put too much on this one. So I'm going to make sure I don't do that this time. If the tissue paper is sticking up a little bit, you can just take it and brush it down with the Modge Podge. So I'd be particularly careful not to put too much tissue paper on whatever your figure is underneath, because you want to be able to see that, to be able to show through when you put your light in there. And you can see why when I did it upside down, it's a lot easier to work with that way. So once you've added all your color onto your jar, you're going to set that aside and let it dry a little bit. And then you can paint your jar lid if you like. So you could use some of this metallic paint maybe. So you could paint it with a brush, or you could spray paint it. This metallic paint is going to take a couple of coats to cover it, because there's some letters on there that I want to cover. Got that painted, and then I'm going to paint the sides and let those dry as well. So while that's drying, I'm going to decide what kind of decorations I want. And so some of the decorations you could use would be some of these little tiny roses, or you could use some charms. I thought these feather charms were particularly nice. I thought I would try these. You can also use any kind of adornment. You could use buttons. I found this little pieces of leftover stuff I had, leaves with little gold balls on them. Or you could use some jewels. Or you could even use some of these stars that I found. So whatever you want to adorn yours with. So just make sure you don't cover your unicorn or your fairy or whatever you decided to, dragon. You don't want to cover him up as you put your decorations on. So I was just going to use some of this cord, and I'm going to cut some of this and thread some of these charms on there. This is perfect for this one because some of them are if they're too thick, it won't go through. I chose an arrow and a star, a feather, and I have a star on there. But you could use ribbon if you wanted to as well. If you don't have cord, you could use ribbon. You can use jute. You could use this elastic cord, whatever cord you want. So then you're just going to take that and wrap it around your jar. I'm going to move my jar lid so it can dry. So I've tied my charms on there. I'm just going to tie this in a knot. And then I'm going to add this cute little adornment. And I'm just going to glue mine on with hot glue. Or you could use the Eco Glue if you don't have hot glue. If you don't have a hot glue gun, you could use like a Gorilla Glue or an Eco Glue. This might actually be even better than trying to use a hot glue gun. Now you're going to need some kind of stick or a paintbrush or something. I would use an old paintbrush to stick on your adornments. So I'm just going to apply a little bit onto this leaf. Don't need a whole lot. Then you would just have to hold it on there for a few seconds. Then you could add some roses to kind of cover up your stick if you wanted to. Didn't cost very much. So in order to cover that, I thought I would stick a couple of those on there. And like I said, I would just use like an old paintbrush of some kind that you don't care about, because once you put glue, this eco glue on a paintbrush though, it's not, basically it's gone. It's just for gluing after that. I think I'm gonna add a few, add one right here. It's not quite dry. So you might want to let some of it dry in between so you can put it on there. But as you can see, I've added a few adornments to mine and some charms. So you can add as many or as few as you would like. So once you're finished adding whatever charms or jewels or little roses that you're wanting to add, you're just going to put your light in. You're all finished. Put your lid on, and your jar is complete. Well, I hope you enjoyed making this craft with me today. I hope you'll join me next time. You can find this craft and many other activities on our Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching.